Welcome to your next step up the self-publishing mountain.
I'm Matilda Swift, author of quintessentially British cozy mysteries.
And I'm Samantha Cummings, author of young adult books about magic, myths and monsters.
I've written the books,
Changed their covers,
tweaked their blurbs,
tried tools from a dozen ads courses.
and I'm still not seeing success.
Now, we're working together to plot and plan our way from barely making ends meet to pulling in a living wage.
Join us on our journey where we'll be mastering the pen to snag that paycheck. Hello and welcome to Pen to Paycheck Authors Podcast. I'm Matilda Swift, here with my co-host Samantha Cummings, and we're here to write our way to financial success. We're two indie authors with over a dozen books between us, and still a long way to go towards the quit the day job dream. If that sounds familiar, listen along for our Mastery Through Missteps journey. Each week we cover a topic to help along the way, and this week's topic is co-writing. As neither of us has done that professionally, we've invited Jen Booker along, who writes the Mia Watson cruise ship mysteries with Gwen Taylor. And so Jen, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself and then your win and or whinge of the week?
Hi. Yes. So I am, you might guess from my accent, an American, but I live in the UK. And I've been published for just over a year now. And as Matilda said, I have only published co-written books. It really helped me to have someone drag me across the finish line to get a finished book out there. But yeah, we'll talk about that more later, I guess. Wins and whinges of the week. I think my win today, I drafted out an entire plot for a reader magnet for a new series. Oh, I mean, it's just
Very exciting.
a little over 1,000 words. So it's not like didn't write the whole thing. I just wrote out like what the story's going to be. And yeah, last time I had a sprint session with my sprint buddy, who is not my co-author. And the last time we had two writing sessions, 2 days in a row, and I wrote a grand total of 0 words in those 2 days. So I was really happy to have something coming out of me today. So that's my win. And my whinge is that my latest book in our series, we have sent back to the editor, and we were hoping that it would just be for like a final pass, but I think she's got some notes for us that I'm not going to be delighted about, but it will make a stronger book. So I have to just pull up my big girl panties and get on with it. So I think that's what I'll have to do this coming week is hammering out the final edit.
That is a big week. Those are some big wins and whinges. Well, got a lot to also dig into there in the episode. Lots of things about writing with other people there. But first, let's do Sam's win and or whinge of the week. What have you got?
For my win, I'm going to say I recently started going live on TikTok and like recording my little admin days. So on Saturdays, I tend to just sit on my own in my office doing like crappy admin stuff. So sending emails or just ticking things off my ever-growing to-do list. And I figured like I love just like chatting to myself. But I thought I might as well just chat to strangers on the internet. But it's just been like quite a nice way to put myself out there in a kind of a scary way, but something that pushes the boundaries, that makes me feel like I'm kind of doing something that feels like I'm progressing at something. So I'm going to say that's my win of the week, is like putting myself out there a bit and doing the scary thing. It's like kind of like being on live TV, but like I'm not getting paid and no one really cares.
It's like being on one of those weird like, hyper-local channels that they used to have in the early days of like cable TV, which I love. Mm-hmm. There's like a Manchester TV channel. Maybe it still is. I don't know.
Could be.
Have you got a whinge or you will win this week?
There could be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good old days of cable TV. I'm not going to say a whinge. I'm going to say no whinges right now. Probably it's just me being optimistic. There's probably loads of whinges, but I refuse to accept them.
Mm-hmm. I'm also going to focus on my win for this week, which is it is sort of a whinge, but it is like I think I had recently like a whinge that I am resolving into a win. So I have been really like trying to get my habits back in order, and I think we talked about this a few times. That I have really only recently started kind of getting things back in order post pandemic. I had a very turbulent pandemic, lots of changes in my life, and I thought that kind of as soon as the initial giant turbulence had finished, I was like, okay, now I'm back to normal, and it just wasn't, and I didn't manage to um, get my habits back in place in a way that I'm able to not notice because I don't have kids. I think it's quite easy to live quite a messy, disorganized life if you're not responsible to anybody else. So I didn't really have to face up to it until I was kind of trying to go through this whole year of, doing a lot of mindset stuff and changing things. And I was really forced to face up to like what is really sucking a lot of my energy is being disorganized. And so my negative thing that's sort of turned to positive this week is just like I'm really trying to work on getting my habits in place and really celebrating every little thing that I'm doing. So it is taking up time that I could be spending writing, but I've decided that from my birthday in October, I really want to hit the ground running and have like a solid year of absolutely killing it with writing and just having everything in place by then. So I'm someone who is always keen to have like a New Year's resolution that's like 7,000 things at once. Like I must become perfect today. And I really struggle with that. So it's like having set the deadline for October for kind of getting a lot of my habits in place feels better. So today I got my smoothie maker out and I dug out all the things I make smoothies with. And I made a good smoothie and took that for a walk in the morning when I was like, I couldn't go for a really long walk because I wanted to have a writing day. So then I felt like, oh, if I can't go for a long walk, I might as well do nothing. Not true. Don't need to be perfect every day. I went for a short walk. I live opposite the most beautiful tiny little woodland area. I made a smoothie. I went for a walk in the woods. Felt more energized all day. I should do that all the time. And then I had 4 bananas that were going really bad. Don't know why. Don't know what's happened to my banana bowl, my fruit bowl. I just let my bananas go, and there's only so much banana bread you can eat. So I was like, I don't want to make banana bread. I live by myself. I can't eat a whole banana bread. I could do, but I'm also trying to start eating healthier. So I
Okay.
made banana oat muffins. Made those. I'm going to put some in the freezer, some in my fridge
Oh.
for eating. And then I had 1 old banana left, and I made myself for dinner banana pancakes. Just delightful.
Yum.
Yeah, really nice. So it just felt like a real winner, because these are all things that I have done before, and they're all small, unimportant things that like most people might just do like take for granted, like eating healthily and going for a walk. That is very beginner level human being stuff. But I am trying to just get it back in order. I've got my 2 chore charts. So I've added to a chore chart the second one. I'm now going to add a daily little like I don't, you might see them like you write a list of all your like to do's for day and then slide a little button across when you've done them. I'm just trying to lean into the fact that I am very like internally motivated. Only really I care about my own accountability, and I just need to see it and like tick things off and do things. So I'm going to have things like take a walk, eat some fruit, just like really basic stuff. And if I can just tick it off and not like ignore it and pretend I've not seen it, that is going to feel really good. So a win. I'm going to say big win for me. I'm on my way to being fantastic in a couple of months, but I don't have to do it today.
You don't. No, well done. I love the fact that you think that you couldn't eat more banana bread when surely everyone could eat more banana bread.
I think really the opposite
Each
problem
to
is true.
their
That I
own.
would eat all the banana bread, and I should not eat the rest of the banana bread.
Should not. Don't know that word. So, just sliding on into the topic of the week then. We're talking about co-writing today, which unusually Jen did from her very first series. So what was it that made you start that way?
Well, my inability to finish a book on my own, really. At the time that I met my co-author, I had been working on my first book for, this is going to be embarrassing, maybe like 2 years.
That is not that long.
Like,
no.
I think we've all got 2 year books
45,000
in our
words
past.
in,
mm-hmm.
and I was like just at the midpoint. And so I was like, okay, I know that if this is really the midpoint, then I need to write another 45,000 words. And because it's a cozy mystery, I'm going to have to cut out, at least get it down to like 60 or 65,000. And even is more like trad length for a cozy mystery. Like cozies are generally on the shorter side, and especially indie published are shorter than trad cozies in general. And I was just sort of like, should I throw it away and start over? I don't know. And, I met Gwen in a Facebook group that was like, we took the same course. We weren't in the same cohort, but there's one Facebook group for all of the students. And she was in there, and I think it was just started as like a critique group, but then she and I were the only ones that showed up. Like a couple of people were like, yeah, that sounds great. And so, yeah. And so she created like a little critique group, and we were the only ones that showed up. And so, yeah, we were just sort of critique partners for a couple of months. And yeah, I don't even remember exactly how we broached the topic, but I think we just both had really sort of similar styles that really seemed like they would mesh together, but also like our strengths and weaknesses sort of complement each other in our writing. Like the things that I would give her suggestions about were more like the description, action, and that kind of thing. And the things that she would give me advice about was the dialogue. And so together, two great tastes that taste good together. It really worked out well. And I think the way that we write together, I'll say this is our experience. I'm just going to talk about our experience because anybody who's thinking about co-writing, it's kind of like a marriage, and every relationship is its own world, its own little country, and you have to work it all out for yourself, how you do it. But do you want me to just babble on? Do you have any questions?
Yes. I've got a couple of questions straight away.
Yeah.
Okay. Gosh, this is, I now think everyone should co-write from the beginning, because that does sound really helpful to have someone who really complements your like strengths and weaknesses. Because that does feel like a thing that takes forever to figure out by yourself, to get all the different skills kind of like whirring at the same speed. When you were critiquing each other, then did it feel like you were very complimentary? Did it feel like you were always making the same comments about her and she was making the same comments about you, or did it take you kind of a while to figure out your complementary styles?
No, I think it was pretty clear, like right from the get-go, because I always kind of save dialogue for last. So yeah, I'm kind of a hermit, and I don't really like go out and talk to people, and I don't have a TV, and so I don't have a lot of like input for like how normal people talk.
I'm very much the same. I tend to write very silent characters because I like talking to people, but I could very happily never talk to anyone again in my life. Like I would be fine with it. It's not like I hate talking to people. I'm very like complete in myself. It feels like I really find it. I mean, it's not very American, I would say. Like I think Americans to me seem very like all their thoughts leave their head quite quickly. And so I feel like it feels very English to me to be very like, insular in your thoughts. Yeah. And I think I'm currently doing some editing work on my writing to kind of start with more dialogue from the beginning and to really get a more like dialogue heavy style, because cozies are so dialogue heavy. But it is really something that I have struggled to do, just because I find it really normal not to talk. I find it normal just like think your thoughts, don't have to say them out loud.
Oh,
you don't have to say them out. Yeah, no, I find it incredibly tiring to be around people that like I feel like they have no internal monologue. It like has to be spoken for it to exist. I'm like, okay, we've had a little while together. Now I need some quiet time.
Speaking of then, like
Oh,
how
God.
you
On
might
the
have
other
different
hand, yeah,
interaction styles. I was
yeah,
gonna say,
and
like,
then
do
I
you
would.
guys find it easy to talk to each other? So, like, do you have different
Oh,
conversational styles? Because I think Sam and I we come from very similar backgrounds, and we have got a similar
Mhm.
like friend in common. So we are quite similar the way we speak to each other. Did you guys find it took you a while to get into the rhythm of chatting and like being honest and being open?
no, not really. I we come from a fairly similar background, and so yeah, I think we were able to sort of relate to one another pretty quickly. It all just sort of really happened quite organically, and yeah, it's I don't know, lightning in a bottle, I guess. No.
Yeah, it's funny because that's how I feel. That's how me and Matilda feel about our relationship and how we came together.
Mm-hmm.
And and it's so hard to tell people really how it happened or why it works. You just find somebody that is just the person that works really well with you, and I think that's really
Yes.
interesting that's happened to you as well. And you're here on this podcast
Yes.
talking to us about it.
And it came from a critique group, which we have just said. We just had an episode about our mastermind meetings. We came out of a critique group. I think that is such a good way to get to know somebody, and not like you get to know their writing style and their communication style, and like how they take criticism. You get to know a lot of things about someone in a critique group, and usually
Yeah.
you then don't want to be friends with after that. You think, well, this is enough of you. but if you meet someone in a critique group and you get on well, then you're like best friends for life.
Yeah.
And it is fantastic. Yeah,
Mhm.
maybe there's, I don't know, like what is the critique group to like writing partnership pipeline? You mentioned, so I had another question as well. You mentioned you have a sprint partner. Did that come out of critique group?
Kind of. Well, it didn't come from a critique group. It came from on somebody's newsletter list, and honestly, I have no idea whose. But maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, the person sent out an email saying like, "Hey, would you like an accountability partner?" And I was like, "Do I ever? I need like 12 accountability partners." And it asked like a bunch of questions to try and match people that were writing sort of in similar genres. And at the time, I had joined the RWS because they have that new writer scheme. And actually, I think I was a member for like 3 years and I never submitted anything. And I was like, oh, this will give me accountability. This will be the year that I get my manuscript in and I actually get the feedback that I've been looking for. And it didn't happen. But, I have a really good working relationship with her, and actually we've become friends. We stayed together. We went to 20 Books Seville, and yeah, we stayed together there and had a great time. And yeah, an online thing became a real life friendship.
Have you two ever tried writing together?
No. Even though we were matched, like theoretically based on our similar genre, I never ended up writing romance, and I think it was because I don't think I could. I don't think I could do it justice. Maybe someday, but I prefer cozy mysteries like so much more reading that I think it would be not the best fit for me. I think I was just trying to make it a fit because of the RWS program. But she writes fairly spicy romance, and yes, I don't see us ever writing anything together. I think the idea of co-writing horrifies her. I guess she's going to listen to this. So.
Yeah,
I've never thought about it, but
when I
like,
told her I was going to be on.
Yeah, hearing you talk about it, it sounds ideal. I think a lot of people that I know who do it, they are experienced writing themselves, and then they go into co-writing. And I would say that's kind of the order that I had always imagined you have to do it in, because I think one thing that I assume co-writers have is like quite a good understanding of their own processes and strengths and weaknesses. And I would feel really shy to like expose my foibles of writing style to somebody else. So can you tell us a bit about the process that you physically go through? Like, are you in the same document? How much do you plan in advance? How does that work? And how hard is it to kind of be open and say, like, this is terrible. I'm so sorry. Please improve it, if that's how you do it.
Well, I will say, like, she was familiar with my writing. Like, I wasn't just, like, I didn't meet her as, like, somebody who had never written anything, and she was like, hey, this would be a great thing. So she was familiar that, like, I could write. I just struggle with finishing. But, yeah, the way we work is we have a Google Doc, and we write live together, and we plot it out. I mean, not excessively. I won't say excessive. Some people I know will plot so it's like 20-25% of their finished word count is in their plot. We don't do that, but we do have a pretty good idea of every chapter, and then we may just add in a handful of chapters here and there if we decide there needs to be a bit more somewhere. And then we just start writing, and whichever one of us feels like, yes, I know what goes here, we'll start writing, and the other person will hang back and read what that person's writing and make edits as they go, which I think is the part that horrifies a lot of people.
I kind of like that idea, to be fair. I would love someone to edit mine whilst I was going.
Yeah,
very brave.
So we never actually have to say directly, I don't like what you just wrote. We just go back and rewrite something else.
You just show that by rewriting everything they've said.
So how do you, if your co-writer goes over something that you are particularly happy with, how do you, I'm assuming, like, do you track changes? How do you talk about, like, the bad stuff, like, oh, I wanted to leave that line in there, that's like that was my best description of something? Or do you, like, how do you deal with that? Because that's, like, it's quite a,
I've never heard people, like, I would get so emotional about it.
Yeah, like the live writing element is what scares me the most. Like, doing it live is, like, freaking me out.
Actually, I kind of resisted against it at first. Like, I would want to do my writing and then put it in there and see what she had done. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Wait, you're still on mute. We're all coughing today.
Yeah, it is. Unmute myself.
Yeah, it is the winter or summer right now.
I would want to sort of do it, asynchronously. So, like, yeah, she couldn't see the garbage that was coming from my fingers. She would just see once I'd cleaned it up a little bit. But actually, it works really well because one of us will write until, like, we'll just sort of brain dump our ideas. And then about the time we kind of peter out, the other one is like, oh, yes, I know what's going to happen next, and swoops in. And so it actually goes a lot faster when we write live because there's a lot less dead time of what goes next, what happens. Because even though we do plot it out, when you come to actually drafting the chapters, there is sort of like, okay, I have this idea of what needs to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Make it so. You know, and
I can't really see that.
Making it so that,
I think we've all had that, like, being sat at the keyboard, like you can imagine the scene, you know what's going to happen, but you can't do it.
Yeah, just pull it out of my head. Come on. And in terms of if we particularly like something we've written, then, I mean, we can always defend it. And generally speaking, if it needs to be defended, that means that it's not quite there. So maybe it shouldn't be, completely thrown out, but something needs to be adjusted. If the other person writing it doesn't understand what you're trying to say, then the reader's not going to understand, the train of thought. So we will have some back and forth. And if there's something that we really like, then we'll hammer it out and keep it in there. So it's not just like, you had your chance, you typed it, and I typed over it, so it's gone forever.
It sounds like though then you have to be quite good at writing a clean first draft, because I think I often write stuff in my first draft that I'm like, I know what I mean. When I come back to it, I'll make that good, but right now it's rubbish. But I want to keep it later.
Yes, I am. My process has a lot more of, I'll put in 3 hashtags and then some information, and so then I can find the hashtags really easy in search. And so I'll do that a lot. I'll just go like hash, make some gesture or does something that is like glaring, but I've already said glaring 12 times in this chapter, or something like that. I'll just put what needs to go there, and then I can go back to it later. And sometimes she'll let me just be like, "Yep, you can work that one out yourself." And sometimes she'll be like, "Yeah, I know a good thing they can go there." She is actually quite a clean writer. So she had only written romance before we started writing together. And as you may be aware, romance writers are expected to be pretty speedy with their turnout. And so she had a pretty good process, I think, of turning out books pretty quickly. Unfortunately, that sort of led to her getting a bit burnt out. And I think just being completely done with romance. Yeah.
That was a question I kind of had, was about like production amounts and production speed. So this is coming from an older sister perspective. I think I'm really showing my older sister energy here. How do you assure like you're writing the same amounts? Like, how do you know it's fair? And how do you like accommodate 2 people's different schedules?
Okay, so we work 6 days a week together, and we will work anywhere from 3 to 6 hours. So it depends on, like, if we're just starting out with something, it'll be less usually, because once it starts getting to the end, we're like, we're so close, we just gotta get it done. We gotta get it done. And so then we'll be putting in more writing hours. We're both pretty lucky that we don't have day jobs, so that makes a massive difference. Yeah. So yeah. In terms of,
are you both in the same time zone?
No, she's in the U.S. So we have fairly different time zones. So we never start until after lunchtime, my time. And sometimes we'll go later than is my natural working habits. I'm pretty much a morning person. But, I mean, obviously I can't be like, I'm a morning person. You get up at 2 a.m. and we can write. It'll be awesome.
Move to England.
So yeah, we do have to sort of juggle things a bit with the time zones, but we don't have to juggle. Like, neither of us have kids in the house, and neither of us have day jobs. So we both have a lot of flexibility in that regard.
Yeah, that sounds like
agree in advance what your production schedule is.
Balance of it.
Yeah. She is a lot more optimistic about how quickly we can get things done, And I think that maybe goes back to her romance writing, where she would, write a book pretty quickly. But I think she has a lot more creative hours in a day for herself. Like, I think because a lot of times we'll write and then she'll go and write something else. Whereas I'm just like, I'm done. that was me for today. So yeah, I think there is a difference in production capability between us, in that she can put out a lot more, but because we only write live together, it doesn't end up being a different amount for us. She just has side projects that she can work on.
Yeah.
But you don't?
Yeah, I love that.
My win of the week was my reader magnet. I am going to start slowly working on a solo series. We'll see.
I believe in you. Well, do you feel like since doing this, since co-working, do you feel like you have built up more of a tolerance to writing, and do you feel like you are coming into now the writer that you wanted to be, but you couldn't be? Have you been pulled along basically into the author?
I have 100% been pulled along, and I do feel like I have learned a great deal so far working with her, and what it takes to actually finish a book and get someone's professional feedback and make the changes, even if you then send it back and they're like, wasn't what I thought it would be. Try again. Kind of what we're dealing with now. We had one killer that we'd had a little bit of a disagreement over who should be the killer, and she was like, I really want this person because it's so unexpected. And I was like, I don't think cozy readers really want that much unexpected. But the editor was like, yeah, this person really came out of left field. And so then we changed it, and we edited the whole book to make it all make sense that he was not the killer now. And we didn't properly change one of the other characters sufficiently. So that's what we have to do this week. And that's the kind of thing that is like, yeah, I need somebody else there to be like, no, we've really got to do this. It'll be worth it in the end.
It will.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yes, it will. It'll be worth it in the end.
So
I've
I
still
want
got
to talk about the nitty-gritty stuff, which is yeah. All right, you ask yours. I'm sure that what you're going to ask is what I was going to ask. You take it away.
Well, I was going to say I still got questions, but I feel like I've asked a million questions because that is like my personality. I love asking questions. So Sam, why don't you ask a couple of questions? And I'm sure they'll be overlapping with what I'm thinking as well.
Yeah. So my thing is really like the behind the scenes management of it all. How does it work being a co-author on Amazon? How do you split payments and royalties and all of that fun stuff? Do you have a joint bank account? Do you have how do you do the maths?
Okay. So this is how we do it. And no, I will freely admit something that drives her crazy about me is I kind of have an aversion to dealing with money. And no, she already had a KDP account because she was already published. And so we've used her account. And basically, she has a spreadsheet of all the expenses. And I just tell her what I spend, and she puts it in the spreadsheet because I don't want to deal with it. And she does deal with it. No, I have to say, she really does a lot of stuff that has made it easy for me to sort of not have to work on some of my good habits. As Matilda was saying, she needs to work on her habits this year Yes. She already had a robust newsletter, and so that wasn't a priority for me. And in fact, I've made that a task. By the end of this book, by the time this book goes live, I will have my newsletter link ready to go in the book.
Yes,
book 6.
Yeah.
But that is the worst thing about self-publishing, is there are like a million things to do.
Yeah. Yes.
But to be quite honest, she is the one who does a lot of those million things. Just she knows how to do them. She's done them before. And she does do them. She's quite organized with stuff like that. And I just, if I don't want to do it and I don't feel familiar with it, like I know Matilda said, like in the past, that you like to sort of learn everything there is to do. And once you've learned all the things, then put it into action. I'm very much the same way, except when I start feeling overwhelmed, then I'll be like, I'm just going to put this to the side in a corner. Put it on the naughty corner.
I'm like, I will look at that later when I have all the energy in the world. I'll come back to that when I'm perfect.
Yes, exactly. She has taken on a lot of sort of the admin stuff just because she's done it before, and she has the account with KDP, and I have a book funnel account now, but I haven't set up my newsletter, so that's just money that I get for no reason. But like, she organizes swaps like that, and she does a lot of stuff. And then the stuff that I do, on the other hand, because I'm not just dead weight, I promise. Like, I bought all, I bought all the covers, and I pay for, like, if we do any promo stacks or whatever, like the sort of big lump sum advertising cost. And then she does the ad spend, like with AMS, we just have a very low ad spend because we're still at that sort of breaking even kind of point, where it's like, yes, if we put money into Amazon ads, we see an immediate uptick, but it's an uptick that covers the cost of getting more Amazon ads, which is, that delightful place.
It's a familiar place to be, yeah.
So for that reason, like, there isn't a lot of accounting to do other than like a notional, one of us has put out this much money and the other one has done this much money, and until we're in a place where we're spending money on Amazon ads or Facebook ads or whatever. I say we, like, she's the only one who's done Amazon or Facebook ads. I just do like word media and those kind of things. Until there's money coming in, like, beyond what would just be rolled back into more ads, like, we don't really have to worry about it.
I do have a related question, actually. Do you guys have a contract?
We do. I have a contract somewhere, and she has asked me recently to send her that contract because, her computer had some sort of tragic ending. She wasn't able, like, she literally lost everything on her computer. So she also lost the contract. I find that contract. That's something that I've been asked with. And find the contract and send it to her, and we're going to revise the contract because we're also going to start a new series this year. So another joint series together, and that one I'm actually going to have to open my own KDP account, like a big girl author.
That's very exciting.
It's not that scary.
It's going to need to be
So, Matilda, what were was that like similar to your question, or do you have?
I think along those lines, I was going to ask one. I was going to ask a question sort of based on, we just had a conversation, Sam and I, a recent podcast about how our mastermind process works. And one of the things that we really value is in such an isolating business, it's really nice just to be able to show someone like all the like the reality of your business, and to be able to say to somebody like, this is how much money I'm making, is that a normal amount to make? Or I've tried adverts and these are my conversions, am I a bad person? So just be able to have somebody who can give you a real look at it, who isn't just, you know, the person on 20 books putting out a post about how they make £1 million a minute. Do you guys have that connection as well? Are you able to share those sorts of things, or is it mostly focused on the series that you're writing?
Well, I mean, like our stuff, obviously we're quite open about. I don't think we really have anyone, like my sprint partner and I, like we'll talk about, she recently had a book club. She wasn't super excited about how it went. She's pretty open with me. So I find that, I don't know, company at the spreading water ground, you know. Yeah, I do. I find the 20 books post both inspiring and kind of maddening. You know, what did you do different? What did you do that I didn't do? Which, I mean, when it's me, yeah, probably quite a lot. But like, I know that Gwen does quite a lot. That, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that
that
sounds like a big benefit.
$1 million or something.
Yeah, it sounds like a big benefit to your, like, having co-writer from the beginning. So like Sam and I we won't recommend anybody. I think I had a friend who was a self-published author, really successful, who I could have a really good, open, honest conversation with when I started. When obviously there was nothing to talk about from my end, but she was very open about like, here's how you do it, here's the 10 things you need to do, don't do this, don't worry about that, don't waste time on this, do that. And that was very helpful. But we were at such different stages. When I started, she was already a full-time author and very successful. So, you know, we were not able to kind of have conversations where I was asking stupid questions and feeling confident about that. And I think when you're doing anything where you're having to be pretty transparent with somebody, that I think automatically gives you quite a leg up on people doing it by themselves. Because even figuring out like how to open a KDP account, just like everything that you do takes time, and there are so many things. Even like having a book club, like it has been really helpful just to talk to Sam and be like, oh, I really thought, you know, everyone on 20 books makes their money back in like 1 minute flat, and I didn't. And I was like, have I done it wrong? No, I've made my money back, and then quite a lot. I would say it's made like 100% back on top of what I put in on it. So like quite, you know, a good return on investment. But it took ages to do it. And I felt like, oh, that seems like not the narrative I hear, but who cares? That's enormous profit that you can get in another business. So that's fantastic. But it really helped to kind of have someone to talk to about it. Because anyone outside the business, if you say to them like, oh no, I just spent, you know, however many hundreds or thousands of pounds on a promotion, and I don't know if it's going to work, the last question is like, oh, have you got your money back yet? Like, no, stop asking me. I don't know how this works. And it just feels really nice to have some people in the industry that you can talk to, and they can say like, oh gosh, that does sound scary. Or no, I've heard the same as well. Like that sounds normal. Or I've tried it myself and it's normal. So I think I sort of wish now I had a co-writer from the start. It sounds fantastic just to not be alone. And especially it sounds like your big skill is like knowing what you need. And I think a lot of people don't know that. So you knew that you needed an accountability partner, and you knew you needed a co-writer. And I think you know, obviously we're joking around about it and can frame it in a way that like, oh, as am I, like terrible at habits and, you know, disorganized in many ways. But it sounds like your enormous strength has been like, I need this thing and I'm going to go and get it. And that sounds incredibly positive. What, like, how would you advise someone else to kind of go about analyzing their own business and what it needs? I guess that seemed really key to your success.
Yeah, I think you just have to be really honest with yourself. Like, I mean, it does seem kind of like I do have a lot of feelings about, you know, not being able to finish a book on my own. You know, like, what's wrong with me? Like, everybody else has finished a book. Like, why haven't I finished a book? You know, so it does, like, nobody likes to ask for help, but that's how you get better, you know, and like, I really, really cannot understate how much I've learned from working with her, and like how much I feel like my writing has improved, and I'm still not like a great, fantastic writer. I'm still a work in progress, but just sort of recognizing what my flaws were and that I needed the help, I think, is a big step. Because I do have some people that I know who they write and they are quite satisfied with the quality of their writing, and I would only buy their book to be supportive if they were to publish. Let's put it that way. you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you just have to be honest with yourself and work on it. Like right now, I'm like, yeah, things I need to do are have my own KDP account and take some of the work off of her shoulders there, and start my newsletter so I can also send newsletters and take some of that off of her shoulders, because I am quite aware that she has a lot of stuff that she's just carried on doing because she was already doing it before me, and that I've just sort of ridden along and let her.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I'm working on.
Yeah, but I do think like there's often, even if you're doing something that someone's doing something that you think I'd hate to do that must be a lot of energy, it might not be for her, and you get to swap in and out different strengths that you have. So like Sam and I for the podcast, we split things in a way that I feel like I'm never that sure how even it is time wise or energy wise, but we split things in like this will take you much less effort than me, like, and it's a thing that you wouldn't mind doing, and I will do the things that I don't mind doing, and even if one of us are doing all the work, without this podcast, neither of us would be anywhere near where we are now in terms of like mindset and leveling up. So I would do all the work for this podcast just to have the meetings with Sam, because otherwise I'd be just sat here talking to myself. I'm not doing it though, Sam. Don't get ideas. You sell to the social media.
No. We do. Yeah, we do share the work. Yeah, I agree. I think that if you're happy with how the work's been split and you're not sat at home thinking like, I feel like I'm carrying the weight of this relationship, then that's a great place to be. Is just to be happy with how it's going and feel like you're moving forwards, because that's what we all want to be doing. We all want to be moving forwards.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I would not feel like I was carrying the weight of the relationship for sure. And I just don't want to be a burden. Like, I feel like at a certain point, I have to take on a fair share of the admin load. So that's what I'm working on at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Working.
Yeah.
I think we've got time for maybe one more question each. This has been absolutely fascinating and just really inspiring to see a different way of working. When I think, you're saying there's kind of an emotional response to not writing books for yourself, but like I would say, for most people listening, it's going to be the scary thing to write a book with somebody else. So I think we're all very quick to see our, quote unquote flaws, but this feels like it's such a gift to have someone be so open about co-writing. And like we talk about this podcast a lot, like so many podcasts are for people who are already really successful looking back on things. And I think so many people who co-write do it from a position of, I've already got all my ducks in a row and I'm just adding an extra person so I can speed up even more. It's really helpful to have someone who is at at an early stage in their writing, be able to kind of evaluate co-writing from a position of kind of much more awareness and openness about it than people at other stages would. So really helpful. And I suffer a co-writer now. I do have a job, so I think I would really struggle to find the time for it. And I think it is, but I could find somebody who's got a similar schedule to me. But I'm too busy. Don't let me take on more things. I'm too busy for that. But it is fascinating.
Yes, you don't have any room.
I don't, but I could. Yeah, I was going to ask. I do have another question, but I've temporarily forgotten what it is. Sam, did you have any more questions?
I do have a question. So I am wondering about the creativity of it. How do you come up with? Because you said you're thinking about a new series. You're going to be writing a new series. How do you come up with an idea for a new series together?
Well, honestly, we were listening to Lynn Morrison talking about how she was inspired by Bridgerton to write her latest series. Which,
and Lynn runs the Cozy Mystery Clubhouse that I talk about very often in this group.
Oh, yes. She runs a different group, very informational and inspiring, and also a little bit intimidating. Some of the other people, like everybody seems to have all of their ducks in a row with their advice.
I think everyone pretends to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we had been thinking about a second series, and we actually have maybe half of a book one written in a second series, but we've sort of set that to the side, and we're like, that isn't really as to market as something could be. And like our current series that takes place on a cruise ship, which, I mean, there are a fair few cozy series set in cruise ships, but it's not really a big market. Like it's, yeah, I mean, it's just not a big market, especially when you look at, culinary cozies or witch cozies, which, I mean, they're called paranormal cozies, but I think 99% of them have a witch. So we were just sort of thinking, like, what could we write that is interesting to us? It's new, it's exciting, because starting something new is always exciting, but also has a bigger market of people that are looking for that particular type of cozy. So I know anybody who's listening to this who doesn't write cozies is like, I don't know what a culinary cozy is. That's okay.
Everyone knows that.
One of the big subgenres of
It's a fantastic genre.
So yeah, we've been thinking about just writing something that's a little bit more to market, but also something that's exciting and fresh and interesting for us, and is not just another in a giant pile of cozies with a woman who goes back to her hometown and finds out she's a witch when she gets there, and also a cat just lets her know that it's her familiar, and she also has a really neat kind of bakery, which is, and that could be a genre of its own. Those three things could make its own genre of cozy mysteries. And while I think that would have a really huge market, I think that we might struggle to find a fresh with yeah. We're working on that. We're workshopping ideas. Does that sound professional?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because I think I was just going to say, like, there was one of our mastermind meetings that me and Matilda had was not like we weren't coming up with a story together. We weren't like workshopping a story, but we were workshopping our X meets Y, and that was and I really enjoyed doing that with somebody else, because you just get such a fun, fresh perspective when you're bouncing ideas off somebody else rather than just sitting at a desk on your own, just trying to come up with ideas, which is fine, and I love doing that. But doing it with someone else is really a fun, wonderful thing. So I'm so jealous that you get to do that with your series as well.
Yeah, I would suggest to anybody, even if you have no interest in co-writing or whatever, don't even want to have a sprint partner or an accountability partner, nothing. If you can get somebody to bounce some ideas off, just to, even if just saying them out loud and having another set of ears hearing them, that can also, like, once it's left your mouth and another person has heard it, you can at least, like, look at their face and be like, oh, yeah, maybe that wasn't it.
Very true.
So, yeah. But yeah, it really is so much faster and more productive to bounce ideas off another person rather than sit and stare at a blank screen and think, okay, I'll just think of like 10 possible scenarios and then I'll pick the best one. I could sit and stare at a blank screen and try to think of 10 scenarios. Like, that could just be an afternoon for me. with nothing productive to show it again. But he and I can do it, in 5-10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So
right, we are coming up to an hour, so we don't want to keep forever. So I'm going to ask you just one last question, which is, what advice would you give to somebody who wants to start co-writing?
I would say that it should be like they should listen to your mastermind episode and sort of put that relationship attitude into finding someone to work with, because it does have to be someone that you feel very comfortable with. It has to be somebody that you feel comfortable with both of your writing styles meshing. It has to be somebody that you have similar goals with. So yeah, like a lot of things do have to align, like not just the personalities, your writing style, your communication style. Because if one of you is really blunt with their feedback, but the other person needs very soft feedback, then that's also not really work well, because, like, obviously, if you're writing together, you're going to be giving each other constant feedback, Yeah, so a lot of things do kind of have to align. And also money. I think you both need to talk about what kind of budget that you're gonna have, like whatever kind of budget is both realistic for your life, but also your I guess your risk aversion or acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you want to have inexpensive pre-made covers, or is it really important to you to splurge on top of the line, that one designer that everybody's trying to get custom covers, especially depending on what genre you're in, if these might involve photo shoots or whatever. Also, what kind of ad spend you're willing to do. I'm pretty risk averse. If I was willing to throw more money at Amazon, we could have faster success, but it could just be me flushing money down the toilet, and that's something that I kind of have to deal with. And she's pretty accepting of that. But if one of the people in the partnership is really all in, like, yep, $10,000 a month on Facebook and Amazon ads, that's the minimum, and the other person is like, I can do $5 a day, like you really have to work out. I mean, it really is kind of like a marriage. Like you have to work out all of these potential differences and talk about them before it's legal.
Mm-hmm. That sounds
Yeah.
like such a good list of things that I think people would not think about. I wouldn't think about if I'm going to sit and co-write with someone, because I would think of just the writing part. But the business part is the bit that's very easy to ignore, because it must be hard to find somebody you can write with. It's a bit like, it's like dating, right? It's hard to find someone that you're attracted to, but they might be a terrible partner, so you still shouldn't be in a relationship with them. Yeah, I think absolutely invaluable information, and hopefully people listening will take that away and enter their partnerships with caution and some, but also enthusiasm. I feel enthusiastic about co-writing. If I find the right person, I might be tempted to do it. So hopefully that's
100%.
helped everybody. We are going to leave it there, so we're not keeping you all night, and so we can let everything kind of mull over. We are partway through our series now on the other people in your business. We've got another episode next week on the same thing about finding your author tribe, which actually we've talked a lot about today. So we'll kind of be touching on some of these issues again next week. If you've got anything that you want to feed into that, do send us a message afterwards, Jen, and we will pop that in next week's episode as well. But hopefully kind of everything we talked about today about joining groups, taking courses, kind of connecting people, sounds really helpful. I think the last thing we're going to do before we let you go is just ask you if you can let people know where they can find you out in the world. Soon a newsletter, but where right now?
This is going to sound terrible. I cannot remember what my professional author email is. So I'm going to say you can find me on Facebook as Jen Booker Author. So, yeah,
Excellent.
on Facebook. And,
If you've got more links, send them over to me and I'll put them in the show notes.
I'll answer them.
Yeah, but do reach out to more authors. That's my big suggestion for everybody. Jen and I met at we've met sort of digitally in the Clubhouse group, but also we met at SPS Live. It is a huge help to actually meet other authors. Then you find out about things like the mechanics of co-writing without having to try it yourself and find it's not for you, perhaps. So yes, thank you so much for joining us today. It has been an absolute delight to chat to somebody, and thank you for being our first guest on the podcast. It's been lovely.
So exciting.
And I didn't realize I was your first guest, which is weird because I think I've listened to every episode. Yay me!
Yay
I
you!
feel very honored. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
It has been absolutely lovely, and we will speak to you again soon, and hopefully have you on again sometime to talk about another topic, maybe how your first series goes without a co-writer, and see how that goes in future. But yes, thank you everybody for joining us and for listening to Jen today and her great tips and tricks about co-writing and for answering our many, many questions about it. Thank you so much, Jen, and we'll say goodbye.
Yes. Goodbye.
You've been listening to Pen to Paycheck Authors.
Stay tuned for our next episode, and don't forget to subscribe to learn how to write your way to financial success.